Welcome to T3 Teach Tech Theater, and this is Tech Theater Thursday, and I am Kirsten Branch.
I'm Julie Benitez, and today we have with us Jason Maddy, who was a teaching artist in San Diego and then became a teacher at one of the schools.
So we asked Jason to join us today because we wanted to have him kind of share his experience of what it was like to go from a teaching artist into becoming a public school theater teacher. So Jason, welcome. We are glad that you are here. And why don't you just share a little bit about what your teaching artist experience was? You're also a local actor in town. So talk a little bit about yourself.
I moved to San Diego right after grad school. I wasn't really looking to be a teacher right away. I went and I have my master's of fine arts, and my plan eventually was to teach at the college level. That's why I went that far. So I moved out and I was going to be an actor, and I started finding teaching artist positions available because of my degrees. So I worked with La Jolla Playhouse, the Old Globe, North Coast Repertory Theater, Playwrights Projects, Junior Theater, and so they just kind of it became sort of the gig for a while. Mostly the workshops were all performance-based. Some of them were very specific. I did a lot of stage combat when I first got here. I guess there was not a lot of people doing stage combat, so I did a lot of stage combat when I first got here. But it was all mostly performance-based, which is what my degree was in. And that kind of took me everywhere. I kind of fell into this teaching position kind of by accident. Was not really fully prepared. I'm well versed in theater and doing plays and analysis. I directed a few shows for junior theater and other places, so I had a little bit of directing experience as well with youth and with adults. I directed a few things for the Fringe Festival and a few other things like that. I was a resident kind of director at Canyon Crest Academy for 3 years. They were going through a transitional period. They had a different teacher for like 3 years in a row. I was the only sort of stability in the department for 3 years because it was a new teacher, but I would come in and I would direct a show. I was supposed to do Taming of the Shrew with them when I got this job at the high school. So I had a little bit of that experience, but I was not prepared for what was happening. The school was in a remodel, so I didn't really have a theater space. I had done a bunch of tech and design in college and high school, but I haven't done it. That was 6-7 years between then and when I got this job. No, longer than that. Oh my gosh. And 10 years between the time I was doing that stuff and then got this job. And so I had not done a lot of tech.
So, being in charge of all of it.
Yeah, the management aspect of it, the budget, all of that was really overwhelming. It became sort of my mission to like figure that out. But in doing so, I often forgot, especially in the first few years, that I'm a teacher first. So I like so focused in on the theater department and making it a thing and the shows and the what that was, but I very often forgot that most of what I needed to do was in the classroom.
Can you elaborate just a little bit more on that? So are you talking about as far as the curriculum components? Are you talking about as far as the non-production kid connections?
A lot of that, all of that, like realizing that the class is actually a company. They're a company of players and technicians. It's a complete ensemble, and so I would, I gelled with the advanced production kids like right away. Like they got it. I was showing them things that they hadn't even heard of before. I got them to buy in right away, but I was having a really hard time getting buy-in from like the beginning students, who many of which didn't want to be there, were coming right in from a middle school where it was very different program. They had different expectations. Or the tech kids, which the first couple of years, I was very lucky that I had students who had worked with Kirsten, and they came in and they were teaching me. they had to teach me how to set up the board and how to run the light board and all of those things. I had some experience with sound, but everything else was sort of brand new. It was really a learning curve. Like we were all sort of learning together.
And that you had mentioned your theater was being renovated, so you weren't even in a theater.
Not even in a theater. All of the equipment was in crates, and I was given this large room, and I was like, no, we're going to put on a show. Raw! And I just went full bore. I have to do something that's going to grab everyone's attention. It's going to make the kids want to be here, all this stuff. But my classroom management skills were nil. Because most of my workshops were with people who wanted to be there. You know, when I came in and did stage combat for you, Kirsten, those rear advanced kids, they wanted to be there. They were ready. So I wasn't prepared for the other half of that. And my classroom management skills, I didn't really have to put them to the test. I even did La Jolla Playhouse Conservatory a couple years, and their young performers workshop, and those kids all wanted to be there. So those were skills I'd never had to really develop. And so that was really eye-opening. And I was able to grow the department by reputation, by the quality of work we were doing, and we grew. But then I realized in the last couple of years, there's been a large sort of turnover of students. And it really has to do with that aspect, that I was driving the department and not the classes. They were separate things in my head, and they can't be. So that was something I had to painfully learn. I came in and I'm supposed to teach tech theater, and I had no idea what to do there. I had a lot of design work in college. I did a lot of design stuff, so I kind of just refocused the entire curriculum around design. I kind of adapted until I learned all these other things, and now I can teach lighting, and now I can teach the sound, and I can do costumes, and I can do sewing projects, and we can do all these things now. But then, no idea. Didn't understand assessment. Assessment was something I totally had to figure out. Like when you're doing a 1-hour workshop, even if stage combat, like the assessment is you're gonna have a 6-move fight at the end of it. That's it. And that's the assessment. It's done. You guys will then reflect with your teacher, and I'm going bye-bye. That aspect and the reflection and assessment process for the students is so important, and no one told me that. I kind of had to figure it out by going, why are we not, how have you been in tech for 3 years and you don't know what the Traveler and the Psych are? How is that a thing? And it was me. It was my fault by the different, by just sort of, here's the information, let's go build things. The teaching aspect, like the theater aspect, I knew. I even had, management classes in school, so I was able to figure all that stuff out. But the teaching aspect of what it really means to be in a classroom and develop these kids, many for 4 years, some of them for 4 years, was just, it's still challenging. Like I'm entering my sixth year, and like there were major discoveries made last year. Major discoveries, like things that I probably should have gotten. I think I got some advice when I first joined. It's going to take you 3 years for the department to be yours, because everybody has to traverse and move through, and it took longer. It took longer. It's still in development. Because I think I came in with zero training on an emergency credential. Didn't know how they're going to keep me. We ended up doing the CTE credential. Came in 2 weeks late in the semester. I had no theater. So all that stuff just sort of moved everything back. I was just trying to get through for a couple years.
I know that when we had our group meetings of looking at what you did, like and it was for you, when you got ready to do a show and you're like, okay, here's my board here's what the set's going to look like. Here's my vision board. Here's all those things. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I've been teaching for over 20 years. I don't make a vision board. I should make a vision board, because then you can talk to the kids about it. Well, that's brilliant. Why am I not doing that? So like, you inspired me because you were so freaked out about, like, I don't know all these things. You were doing so many things that I mean, I think inspired other people in our district even.
That's good to hear. That stuff I was doing just to sort of clarify for myself ended up becoming the final. Like, that's what tech kids do now, is create a final. It's some, there's not, they do all these other projects and stuff, but they design. That's what they walk away from, because I figure there's still, at the end of the semester, after building the fan boats or something, there's still people who are scared to death of touching the shop site or jigsaw scares them. So, they can sit, design. It also fits into the school's sort of technology-based 21st century skills. So I'm glad to hear that it did that, because it's also helped me drastically. Like, doing all that stuff, like, I had to re-educate myself. And a lot of this was stuff I knew and I learned at some point, but I haven't done it. So,
also with all of your assessments, I mean, you said that assessment was a thing you had to learn. Again, while in that big drive of where we have all of our stuff together from the district, I'm like, oh, let's steal that. Let's steal that. Why don't I have an exit ticket? That's a really good idea. I should have exit tickets. Like, why am I not using Google Forms like he's using Google Forms?
I literally created those at the beginning of last year because I did a PD that was talking about assessment, and I'm like, oh, I don't do any of those things. Well, hold on a second. That's why they don't know what a psych is. That's why they don't know where the psych is. They've been looking at it for 3 years. That's why they don't know. I've never asked them. I just tell them, here's a psych. Let's go. Then we go do something else and they forget completely. So now I think have a better idea of reading the room and letting the kids sort of guide where we're going to go with the stuff. And sometimes they want me to just speed through it, and I do. And sometimes they want to question and talk. I'll have so many times where that'll be on the plan that we're gonna, on the Friday, we're gonna hit this exit ticket for stage directions, and we'll never get to it. Right away. And actually, I'm really proud of this. Because I'm just gonna share this with you now. This is where I got to, and with the help of you guys, Julie. That's your ladder right there. But like finding all this stuff, and I'm able to create something that looks like this now, it still was in development. It wasn't done. but and then I can just take this, and was going to do Romeo and Juliet with the same set right after. So I had a whole plan, but
this was your set for Godspell, is that correct? And that was the show that did not go because of the COVID shutdown.
Right.
Yeah.
So then more brick. I was going to add all this stairs and stuff. It was going to be. I was very proud of it. I was very proud of it. They were dancing around on it. It was holding up everybody. The school had a scaffold just sitting in the guy's locker room. I was like, well, I want that. I want to use it.
Nice.
So it was exciting, and it's kind of a bit of pride for me that I can do this. I actually came up with this. I did this. This is something I did. I have kids now that I actually could say, go do this, and walk away, and I would come back, and it was done.
Nice.
Not all of them, but a couple. And so it's exciting. It's exciting.
If you had to, I guess, narrow it down, what was like the biggest shock for you going into the classroom and realizing, okay, so everything I've got up to this point is different than where I am now?
The building of the ensemble. Like that was really sort of like, because you do it, and as an actor, I do it when I'm in shows, but it's led by somebody else. But not just in like the advanced kids, like all the way through in all the classes. Like I was so concerned with getting the information right that I lost kids. I lost kids the first couple of years. They would just leave the class in the middle of the semester because they just like, this is not where I want to be. And I'm like, okay. Me being a reflective person, I'm why what am I doing that is causing this? And I had to continuously ask that question until I can see where it was happening. How do you get a bunch of teenagers who are completely in flux, mentally, emotionally, and in development to buy in, to collaborate with each other, to act in a mature way when things aren't going their way? I thought I was coming in and like I'm the outsider, but they still needed that had guidance. They didn't. I thought it was, they were already there, but they weren't.
So if you could give somebody advice, say coming from the teaching artist world into teaching in a public in a public school, teaching a theater program, what piece of advice could you give them? Just as like, here's your bumper sticker for the first couple years or whatever. Now that you've survived it, what would you tell somebody coming into your position, or what would you tell past Jason?
It's okay not to know what you're supposed to do. Okay to not have to know that. I did not allow myself to believe that for 2 years, and those were two very difficult years. But it's okay not to know everything right now. And it's okay to admit to the kids that you don't know. I didn't let myself believe those two things for the first couple years. But yeah, that would have been a load off if I would have known and accepted that bit of fact. It's okay to not know.
So if you want to know more about the Valhalla Theater Arts Program, we will put a link to the website in the comments below. Thank you so much to Jason Maddy for coming and chatting with us today about his experience. And as always, T3 is here to talk. If you want to email us, you can reach us at teachtechtheater@gmail.com. Check out our website at teachtechtheater.org. And please remember to like and subscribe this video. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you next time. Bye.